Hey guys, this is Justin. Hello and welcome to another video. One of the more interesting rumors, which I covered on my Clips channel by the way, subscribe to that if you haven't already, is that the upcoming Dave Filoni Star Wars movie may be called Heir to the Empire. Now, since those initial rumors, some people have pushed back saying, hey, that's not what we heard, but whether the movie is titled that is really immaterial. Everything we know about the Ahsoka show and the next stage of Star Wars storytelling has made it pretty clear. The comparisons to the original Thrawn trilogy are going to be tough to avoid, especially for fans, and in my opinion, this is going to be the single most annoying bit of conversation that we have to deal with for the next 3 to 5 years in the Star Wars community. So let me explain where this all starts, because sometimes when I do these videos, I assume that everyone has a baseline of knowledge, but really that's not true. Even if you're a hardcore Star Wars fan, you may not know what exists beyond, say, the movies and video games. You've probably heard of Grand Admiral Thrawn, you may not know the details. Well, between the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, a whole new world of Star Wars blossomed on the pages of novels and comic books and video games and more. Now, to be true, the expanded universe existed in some form before this point, but it was really the Thrawn trilogy, which started with Book 1, Heir to the Empire in 1991, which kicked off the new interest in non-film Star Wars media. Heir to the Empire was #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. It sold 15 million copies for something that was probably seen by many, perhaps even Lucasfilm itself, when commissioning the project as a schlocky novel tie-in to a sci-fi series. That's incredible, remarkable. I think the trilogy is so special to many people, including myself, because it feels like a true continuation of the original trilogy. The author, Timothy Zahn, does a phenomenal job of capturing the feel of Star Wars, what the characters are like, what the universe should feel like, and he took elements from the earlier Star Wars source books to not only mimic the feel of the original movies, but also expand what we knew about the universe in a way that's just totally satisfying. And by the way, if this sounds good to you and you haven't read the original trilogy of novels, I highly recommend you do so. If you're not big into reading, also consider checking out the audiobooks. I think they're phenomenally well done. Either way, it's no exaggeration to say that without these books, there may not be a Star Wars expanded universe, or even really the idea of tie-in novel universes to the extent that they exist today. It's also true that the expanded universe and these books really helped keep Star Wars alive in a period where there wasn't a whole lot coming out. I'm trying to give all this context to explain why these books are really important to many people. There's also just the broader fact that Star Wars expanded universe content got a lot of people into reading, which I think is great. Anyway, one thing that I've noticed is that far more people talk about the Thrawn trilogy, especially young people, than have actually read it, and that's sort of an effect of these books more entering the mainstream. Even though I mentioned the average hardcore Star Wars fan may not know what Heir to the Empire is, there's also a huge population of people who are into the lore, who watch videos on YouTube, who read the Wikipedia pages, who are interested but haven't actually read the books for themselves. This is a really big part of the population, and you can tell, for example, when I cover the Yuuzhan Vong, really easily who's read the series or not because of the spelling in the comments. Anyway, I talk about this because I've noticed already so many people talking about how Heir to the Empire or the Ahsoka show is going to ruin what the original novel has done, and I suspect when the show comes out, you'll have the opposite, with people saying that it's so much better than the original source material. You already see this, people discounting the Thrawn trilogy because of Luke or Jorah's Sabaoth or whatever else. And they clearly just haven't read it, and that's going to get significantly worse when the show comes out. Regardless of the quality of the show, or the movie rather, it's going to be a lightning rod for controversy, because everything in Star Wars is controversial now. The Legends versus canon fan debate has been waged for a while now, and this is going to be the new front in the war. I tweeted out that I can't wait for 1 billion people who have never read Heir to the Empire to explain to me how Ahsoka / Dave's movie is 1,000,000 million times better or worse than the source material, and this is going to happen. People who have never read about the character of Thrawn, just like they did in Rebels, are going to talk about how he's now an improved version or a worse version. If Disney does make Heir to the Empire the movie's name, my guess is it's probably more of a working title. They'll be inviting those comments explicitly, but they're going to come either way. Personally, I don't think there's any way that I love this new phase of Star Wars storytelling any more than I loved Heir to the Empire. It's just not likely because I'm not a kid anymore. I just cannot be wrapped up in the magic of falling in love with the Star Wars universe in the same way. Like, discovering Heir to the Empire and the fact that there were stories outside the Star Wars movies blew my mind as a kid. I still remember seeing this cover for Heir to the Empire with Jorah Sabayoth on it, wondering who this wizard-like character was. I thought it was probably Luke's new master, which I guess is true for a brief period of time, but I fully realize the new movie and show are facing an impossible task. Just like no Halo game is ever going to hit me the same way that Halo 3 did, because no Halo game is going to be able to make me carefree and 15 years old again. My hope, and this is pretty much always how I approach things, is that we can appreciate the original product for what it was, a phenomenal bit of Star Wars storytelling, while also giving the new one a chance to operate on its merits. And yeah, it's going to be different. It's very unlikely that Luke, Leia, and Han are going to be as prominent in this new Heir to the Empire as they were in the original Thrawn trilogy. We're probably not going to have a Mara Jade character. We're probably not going to have a character explicitly named Talon Karrde. Those are things that I would have wanted, but I feel like if I just focus on the comparison, I'm not going to be happy. But I still think it could be good. I mean, I loved Star Wars Rebels. I thought it was great. I want to see how the Rebels characters play into this new story. I like some of what new canon has done with Thrawn. I thought he was good in Rebels, so I want to see how he appears in this story. Either way, I just think it's really incredible how a 30-year-old tie-in novel is the base of what Star Wars is building off of. It's what they're leveraging their success on. A tie-in novel probably meant to sell books to nerds. That would have been unthinkable before the Star Wars Expanded Universe. I really do believe that. And I think all the credit in the world also goes to Timothy Zahn. It just really does, because he made something so enduring and so incredible. He's not as involved in this series as I personally would like. We know that Dave Filoni sort of talked to him. That was also the case with Star Wars Rebels, though, when talking to him basically meant filling him in after the decisions about the writing were already made. I personally would have liked to have him directly involved in the story. Either way, I watched a recent interview and he really seemed interested in continuing to write for the universe. Not just interested, but enthusiastic. He already had stories created to bridge the gap between Rebels and whatever comes next. So I really hope that Disney recognizes his talent and how much we as a fandom and they as an IP owner owe him for Star Wars' continual success. Just my thoughts though, sort of a bit of a rambling video today. Let me know yours down below.